Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's one thing to be a professional matchmaker, but imagine taking that and putting it into one of the most image-obsessed areas in the world, Los Angeles. Our next guest has so many stories. She's finished her third book and is currently at work on her fourth.
Yes, the book is called Diary of a Beverly Hills Matchmaker, and it is very, very funny and entertaining. Marla Martenson is joining us now to let us a little bit more.
Great.
How are you?
Wonderful.
So you kind of fell into the business of matchmaking a little bit. This was not an intention of yours.
It was not my life dream. I didn't even know this job existed. And back in 2001, my husband, who wasn't my husband yet, we were still dating, his friend was taking over the management position at a video dating service. And she said, hey, if you want to, I needed a job. She says, if you want a part-time job, I'll hire you. And I was the videographer, making little movies of the clients.
Asking
you kind of fell into it. You ended up working with for another matchmaker for quite some time in Los Angeles, which is really, I think, probably one of the weirder, most wonderful places on the planet. But I think it's akin to any city where people are dating because it is a funny business. How picky are people when they are going to a dating service and looking for their mate? How picky can they be?
Boy, when they're thinking, gosh, I'm going to, especially the men who are the paying clients, they think, I'm going to pay thousands of dollars, I better get what I want.
Right. So perfect 10.
Here's my list.
Here's my list. And, you know, I say, look, guys, it's not like ordering a car. You're going to get leather seats and air conditioning and a stereo system.
Sometimes you're going to get a standard instead of an automatic.
Exactly. You have to be a little flexible. So that's part of my job, too. I do some coaching and try to help people to see, are you really being realistic? Can you loosen up on a few things?
Are people willing to loosen up, or is that just a sign of somebody who's not willing to settle down?
Well, sometimes they are. I recently had a client come in town. He's from another state, and he came in, and I took him to my spiritual center, and we went, and he loved it, and he did this special prayer with one of the practitioners afterwards. He was praying. I said, you can pray for your soulmate. So he was doing that, and afterwards he says, I think I'm going to loosen up on a couple of my criteria, because he kind of realized that he's really looking for that. Of course, men are visual. He wants her to be pretty, but there's a heart connection. There's other things.
But I mean, people, is it patterns that people get in, I guess? I mean, you know, you sort of get to a certain stage of your life and people get a little bit set in their ways, I guess, or maybe set in their expectations. And if they're having career success, they expect that, you know, that other success should follow as well.
Right, and when we are older, sometimes people are holding off marriage into our 40s or even some in the 50s, and we are set in our ways, and you really have to realize you're going to have to give and take. There's going to be things about your partner that will probably drive you crazy, but you have to...
That's no different than when you're in your 20s.
Right, get a little more.
And we always point the finger at the guys for being too picky, but from your experience, are women just as bad?
The women can be bad about certain things like height. You know, even if the woman's 5 feet tall, they say, I only date men 6 feet and up. Sometimes they get stuck on the height. Or
I have run into that in my lifetime, that women get a little obsessed with the height and discount the shorter side of the male.
And they shouldn't,
and they're missing out on some wonderful guys. The average American male is 5'9", and so I looked these up.
Yeah, but in all honesty,
really
anyone
the
below
news
5'9",
I didn't want to hear.
Anyone below 5'9" is a jerk. I mean, I think that's something we can all easily agree on. Thank goodness I'm 5'10". You juxtapose this particular book. This is your third, Diary of a Beverly Hills Matchmaker. And there's a beautiful juxtaposition in here between your experience matchmaking with people and your experience in finding love. And the reality and the depth of love versus what people expect when they're dating.
Right, I talk a lot about my own marriage in there. We're like Ricky and Lucy. My husband's Latin and he's a musician, and I'm a crazy redhead trying to get in the show. So it's not all about my job, it's a lot about my life and how I met my husband as well.
But it does give great insight, because I think you finding love, even though you were working as a matchmaker, was unexpected, which is what usually happens.
I met him
with
right
people.
before I got into, he actually got me into the business through his friend, but and people are happy to hear that I'm married, because if they see a woman in her 40s matching people, well, you can't even find someone for yourself. What are you going to do for me? So they kind of feel good that I found somebody.
Okay, let's talk about dating a little bit, because Vancouver, this is your first time to Vancouver. You've been to Victoria before, but Vancouver is kind of known as a really tough dating city. So we want to get some dating advice. So what are some of the do's to do on a date if you're on a first date with someone?
Okay, well, be a good listener, I would say that. A lot of times I'll get feedback, and it's interesting because the guy will tell me, well, all she did was talk about herself. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. And then the woman would say, all he did was talk about himself. So it's interesting.
So perceptions are really...
Perception, but try to listen more than you talk. Do show up on time. That's something
Ooh,
that
I hate
right
it
away
when
when people are late, it's like it shows that you don't respect.
Yeah.
Do be concerned about what you're wearing. I remember one woman who had been dating a lot. She was kind of burned out, and she thought, yeah, I'm not going to like him.
You know what? Forget it. I'm going in my sweats.
Yeah, I'm not going to like him anyway. It's not going to work out. So she didn't wear any makeup. She kind of wore baggy clothes, and then she got there, and he was so cute, and she says, darn, you know. And he was like, well, she wasn't that, you know. She was kind of casual.
She seemed nice, but
yeah. So she kind of blew it on that one. And women do notice, guys, if your shoes are scuffed, if your nails are dirty or bitten.
Yeah.
Guys, don't be afraid to go get a manicure.
These are fairly simple things, but that first impression, I mean, that really is a basis for a huge amount of judgment
you have
from people.
one chance to make a first impression, and little things like that do count, and you might not get a second date.
Those are the do's, but the really funny
don'ts
things.
are fun.
Well, because the book is filled with personal stories that you've collected over the years, and sometimes the don'ts are just, I mean, they're bordering on being outrageous, some of the things that people do on a date.
But people do them time and time again.
They
Give us some don'ts.
Well, some don'ts. For example, don't drink too much on a date. And that sounds very simple, but it happens. You're drinking some wine and you order another one, and then you start.
And some people do it because they're nervous.
Because they're nervous, but just sip it and have water with it, because then your tongue starts loosening. You start telling your financial problems, what's happening with your ex, your child custody suit, your abuse as a childhood, you know.
Can you believe this is a wig?
Yeah,
you know, like
exactly.
Kind of
and
stuff.
then the guy is like, well, he or she has too much baggage, or
too
so
much information.
just keep
gets
it to a couple
spilled.
drinks.
The first date is really just talk about places you like to visit. Do you have a favorite wine? What kind of books do you like? What films? See if there's enough chemistry to have a second date. You don't need to delve into your past.
Yeah, and we see people, or I see people all the time.
Really, you see people doing that?
Well, when
you never
when
do
you're
that?
married, you're
Talk
allowed
to
to text
people?
during dinner. That's totally fine.
You can read the newspaper.
You know, it's rude in the first place, but if you're meeting somebody for the first time, taking a phone call or texting, it is just a deal breaker.
Unless you're a doctor or a parent with small children and you need to check in with the babysitter, just put your...
Or if you do, just excuse yourself and go to
Excuse
the
yourself
washroom
and go to
check
the
your
restroom.
phone. Yeah.
He seemed like he had to go to the bathroom an awful lot. I don't know about that. Do you love your life? I mean, the matchmaking aspect of...
The matchmaking is very rewarding. I've had a lot of people get married in long-term relationships, and what's better than that?
That must be a beautiful sensation.
I love
mean, when
that.
you see it all come together and you see two people that are really sort of moving into a happy phase of their life, that's got to be...
And it allowed me to write the books, which I love. I wanted to be a writer since I was a little girl. So
And this book is funny,
so
it is
funny.
entertaining, and it has some great insight into the dating world. It's called Diary of a Beverly Hills Matchmaker. Pick it up because it's very great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Marla. I appreciate it. When we come back, we're going to show you an interview with Eliza Schlesinger, an amazing comedian, and her cute dog Blanche that apparently doesn't love her. We'll be right back with Eliza.